Alright, we're at the end of AOS 3. So this is a final AOS 3 Ironjawz tier list. Let's get into it. Thanks to my Killboss patron Panda, Why Barry Makes Good Art, link in the description below, and buy some dice from Baron of Dice. They got sick dice. Use code MDG at checkout. There's nothing there. Right. Okay, so here are all of the Ironjawz units. We're not doing Regiments of Renown, we're not doing Allies, we're just doing straight up Ironjawz. So let me define my terms by these different tiers and what I mean. So S tier is an auto-include. It means we're going to be including this unit in pretty much every army every time. And if you're not running an S tier unit in the army, it's because you're doing something like different and you're taking it in a different direction. But if you're playing relatively standard Ironjawz, then it's an S tier. A tier is just a really good unit. You're going to be bringing them a lot of the time, not necessarily an auto-include, but like when you do bring them, you don't feel bad about it. B tier is situational. It means that sometimes they're good against some armies, some matchups in some metas, but you'll bring them sometimes and they won't really be very efficient. They won't really do much for you. And then F tiers, they're just bad. Don't bring them. That's it. Okay, let's start with some monsters. So we have a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. And as much as I would love to put... Well, can we just start by putting... Is Kragnos a B tier in Ironjawz? Kragnos is one of the better... Or sorry, I should say Ironjawz is one of the better armies that Kragnos can find himself in. I think if I was gonna build an orc or a greenskins Kragnos army, I think it might be the Iron Suns in Ironjawz, where you're gonna countercharge 3d6. That seems pretty cool to me. So I think if that's what you're doing, if you're leaning into like a Kragnos playstyle with Ironjawz, I think Kragnos is actually going to be B tier in this army, which is the best that Kragnos is going to be. It's the best that Kragnos is going to be. So how about a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher? We're going to stick him... You know what? We're going to stick him in S tier. S tier? A tier? So the thing is, in my mind, the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher is an auto-include in Ironjawz, but that's just because he's awesome. Right? It's like you want your mount traits, you want all your all that good stuff. So it's like that's an obvious to me include. However, I think you can play Ironjawz without a Maw Crusher. But I think I'm just gonna leave him up here at A tier. Gordrak, the Fist of Gork, even with his point reductions, I think is B tier. The only time he's good is if you're trying to run a second Mega Boss or a second Maw Crusher in a list, right? Because your Mega Boss on Maw Crusher is going to get Fasten and Destroyer, and you don't have any more enhancements. So then you can take the Gordrak, but only if he's the second one, because his 4-up save versus the 3-up save of the Maw Crusher is just... it's so much worse. That extra save just makes it so much worse. I'm going to put Tusk Boss in B tier. I kind of think he's F tier, to be honest, but I don't think it's that bad. I think that the big pigs, with their more change to momentum and their point reductions, I think you can play them in a herd or like play multiple of them. So if that's what you're going for, if you're like, I'm going to play a bunch of big pigs, then considering a Tusk Boss is viable at that point. I don't think it's like I'm playing a Tusk Boss, so let me throw in a bunch of pigs. I think it's more like I'm going to play a bunch of pigs, so let me consider taking a Tusk Boss in that particular case. Gore-Grunta Gouger, A tier? B tier? Is he situationally good? I think he's just kind of always good now. I'm really enjoying him a lot more now at 160 points. He's a monster. He's just a really good flanker. His damage, he doesn't degrade on his damage table. With momentum being fixed now, it's actually fairly like good and reliable, like relatively so. If he runs in the first turn, the probability that he can run and then charge in the second turn is really high. So for him just to run off and grab an objective and then the following turn like run and charge is quite good and strong. So I'm actually going to stick him at A tier. I think he's actually at A tier. And I kind of want to put the Hack and Crew at A tier as well. The monstrous action to be able to jump over screens, get to your max momentum, right? Because so like if you run turn 1 and then you run in charge turn 2, and then you have 5 momentum, and then you use that monstrous action, it lets you do another charge. So now you're at 6 momentum, and the sidecar guys, I think that they're the ones where the rend goes all the way up to 3. If let me see, what is it called? Gorgrunt Gouger with Hack and Crew. There he is. But yeah, I think it's the it's the rend on the Kill Choppas. The rend on the Kill Choppas starts at 1, but when you get to max momentum, it's at 6 rend. So it's only 2 attacks, right? But it's still like really good. Like being able to jump over battle lines and like get extra movement, and then like to fly over things, like solid, really really solid. Okay, up next we got our heroes. Let's take a look at our heroes. So we'll start just with an obvious S tier, the War Chanter. War Chanter, just the +1 damage. Like, not only is a War Chanter an auto-include in Ironjawz, I think that 2 War Chanters is auto-include in Ironjawz. Just, like, +1 damage. You don't have to roll a die, right? The beats are fine, but, like, if you remove the beats, he'd still be S tier. If all he did was Violent Fury, he would still be S tier. So, fan-freaking-tastic. Mega Boss on foot, we'll stick him in A tier. I don't think he's an auto-include, but this is where it gets a little bit silly and strange with like the Maw Crusher and the Mega Boss. It's like having a Mega Boss is S tier, right? If you're not playing a Maw Crusher, you're playing a Mega Boss on foot. You just need that command point economy, right? With Mighty Bellow. I think that's what it's called, right? I can't remember. I always forget the names of things. It's awful. So I'll put the Mega Boss on foot in A tier. It's like when you bring him, he's going to be good. You can even bring like a Maw Crusher and a Mega Boss on foot. Like it's less efficient, right? But you could do it for sure. Very, very strong. Ardboy Big Boss, I think we're going to put him at B tier. I don't think he's F tier because he's situationally good. If you're going to be running large bricks of Ardboys, like reinforced Ardboys, like if you're running 4 units of Ardboys and 2 big bricks, the Ardboy boss suddenly is much better. Because being able to retreat and rally is really strong if you're rallying on 5-ups, and the shield smash going up 1, if you're throwing like 20 shield bashes while suddenly doing it on a 5-up is a lot better. But again, I only really think it's good if you're going to be running like 30 plus Ardboys. If you're running 30 or more Ardboys, I think he's good. But otherwise, I don't think he's good. Same thing with Zogrok. I don't think he's F tier. But he's pretty darn close to F tier. He's pretty darn close to F tier. The only time that he's good is if you play a whole bunch of pigs and you're like going for just the overkill buff damage on Gorgruntas. I think that's the only time that he's like playable. You need to have like, because the thing with Gorgruntas is each model just throws a lot of dice. So if you're looking for 6s or mortals, right? It's like, well, that's the way to do it. He also gives mortal wounds to Gorgruntas. Yeah, like lets Gorgruntas do mortal wounds. So that's pretty good, but still B tier. Weird Knob Shaman, I'm actually going to say is S tier. I know that there's lists that don't run wizards and instead run like a pouch of Null Dust or something, but the Great Big Green Hand of Gork is such a powerful spell. I can't, like, it's just so good. And so, this season with Locusts and all that, like, I'm pretty sure that a Weird Knob Shaman's going to be an auto-include in every list, pretty much. Unless, as I said, you're like, well, I want to be a one-drop list, right? And I want to just be like the most hyper-aggressive Ironjawz I can. Then it's like, okay, so then you run your 2 Mega Bosses and a bunch of pigs and call it a day, right? Brutes, A tier. I don't think that they're an auto-include in every list in Ironjawz, but whenever you have them, they're going to feel good, right? They're going to feel good in every Iron, but you could definitely run Ironjawz without Brutes, right? But it's like, I like to run 10 Brutes, personally. I think that they do a great job. Gorgruntas are S tier. You're going to include them in every single Ironjawz list, even if it's not a Bloodtooth list. They're very efficient for 170 points. They're fast. They hit pretty hard. They do a lot of good stuff. So even if you're not playing Iron Bloodtooth, sorry, you're probably still going to play at least one unit of Gorgrunt. It's very, very strong. I don't know what to do with Ardboys, to be honest. It's like, I think they're A tier at 190 points, but it's not the way to play them, really. Right? It's like you're going to still probably play Bloodtooth lists, but, like, I don't know. I think that they're A tier just because they are very, very good, especially for 190 points. Coming down 30 points from release is kind of nutty to me, but it is what it is. Ragers, I think, are also an A tier unit. I think for 100 points, they deal the most damage per point for everything in the army. The fact that they can run and charge helps them get around some of that Ironjawz slowness that they have, right? So being able to, like, Mighty Destroyers and then move and then run and then charge, right? Very good slapback. I have 2 units of these, but I've never once put them on the table. I never seem to have room in my list at the end. It's like, would I rather have 6 Ragers or 3 more pigs? You know, it's tough. Rekkas, I think, might actually be the only F tier unit. I think every time that you put Rekkas in a list, I think they should be Ragers. I can't think of a situation where you want to have Weird Brute Rekkas over the Ragers. They just, I don't know. They just don't seem to be very good, right? They have a 5-up ward while they're in combat, but with 3 wounds and a 5-up save, it's like you're not using these as a tar pit. If you're trying to use these as a tar pit, you just play Ardboys, because Ardboys for 70 more points, right, have way more wounds and a 2 better save. Who cares about the ward? It's like, a ward is nice and good and all that, but the Ardboys just offer so much more, right? 6 Rekkas is 18 wounds for 240 points. Ardboys are 20 wounds for 190 points on a 2-up save. Like, they're just way better. So Ragers deal more damage and Ardboys are more of an anvil. So what does that leave Rekkas with? Rekkas should really be like Ragers, but they should get bonuses against a particular kind of enemy, right? Like, I guess they get a Horde Buster, right? If they roll a 6, like if they roll a crit to hit, it scores 2 hits instead of 1. But whatever. It's like, I don't know, it's fine. And then at the very end, we have, of course, our little crews here. So we have the Iron Skull Boys, and then we have the what's the other one called again? Morgoth's Crushers. Is that right? So the Iron Skull Boys, these are 80 points, right? These are like the Ardboys, and I think that they're B tier. Now the reason I say that they're B tier is because of their point cost. They're only 80 points. So you could very well include these guys in your army if you had 80 points exactly. If you have 90 points, I could see playing Spider Riders instead, right? Like, because you can include Hobgrot Sleddas or Daggok Stab Lads in an Ironjawz army. So when you're getting down to those last few points, you're kind of looking at like, well, which of these 2 guys are you going to take? So Morgoth's Crushes, I think, also fall into that, like, B tier. Like, if you have some points left over. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments or come join the Discord. I'm hoping to revisit this in 4th edition and see how these things change and move around. But until then, like, subscribe. Wow.